right, guys. Welcome back to the Perfect Lab Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. He goes by Kilgore. I go by Jager. And today we have the old, the crusty, the oldest men on the planet Earth who've been around since dinosaurs roamed the racetracks of Time Attack. We have JC Meynet and Ryan Novak, old legends of Time Attack themselves. Okay, guys, so we got Subaru guys. So sorry, Kilgore, this is going to be very Subaru centric, but he also had a Civic, and magically they're both driving V8 cars now. So I don't know why we're into Chevys and weird stuff, but we're going to get into all that. We're going to start off. JC Meynet, how's it going, sir? How's it going?
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Mr. Novak, how's it going for you today?
Doing well, sir.
Oh, buddy. So let's start this off. JC, how in the freaking world did you say, I'm going to go pick a Subaru and I'm going to start time attacking? Tell us the legacy story of how you picked a Subaru and decided to go time attacking.
Well, just come from a long family history of racing. And I did a ton of motorcycle racing for years, AMA road race stuff, motocross. I did some, but at one point I kept getting hurt, and I was okay, but I wasn't, special on those things. I was just okay. And one day I went my buddy's go-kart, and I'm like, damn, I can drive this thing. And so then I ended up racing karts for a while, won a bunch of championships, and that was fun. And then I bought a little Subaru, little sports car, just to buzz around the street, commute on, and whatever. And like any but a Subaru, you can't leave it stock. So I kind of looked online when online was barely a thing. We're talking 2006, and chose between several spots and literally flipped a coin to figure out who I was going to go to, and ended up being Harmon Motive, Dan Harmon, which is where Ryan was hanging out. And so I went down there, and they kind of pimped up my car, and we got to become buddies and started doing some track days. And it's like, man, I'm driving this thing pretty good. So they said, hey, if we help you out, will you race and kind of represent the shop? And so I'm like, yeah, why not? I just perfect timing. I just had a bad motorcycle accident. My arm was in a cast for almost 2 years. I could still shift, but I could, I could steer with my left hand and kind of shift my right hand. And so I just happened to have a Subaru just at the time, and it just fit the timing, it fit the shop, and that's where Novak had a Subaru at the time, and maybe some other cars, but that's where we met, probably sometime during 2006. I'm thinking.
So the big question here is this I mean, I'm making a huge assumption. This is the same Subaru is that the same dyno that the infamous video took place on?
Yeah.
Your Subaru. So if you guys, I know every single one of you guys have seen this video, but just understand this is JC Meynet's Subaru on the dyno at Harmon Motive, and it's like they put his Subaru on this dyno, put it on rollers, and intentionally left the straps just a little bit loose, and decided to rip through all of the gears in the most exciting fashion that you could imagine. It looked like at any given moment, this thing was shooting right off the dyno. It looked
we didn't do the straps loose on purpose. We just done some tuning on it. And so it was all set. And it's like, all right, let's just throw down a drag race, simulated drag race on it. And, we didn't double check the straps. It just, whatever. And because, it's one thing to spool up a dyno. It's another thing to launch on it, And we hadn't really done any launches, so we didn't know what to expect. But yeah, and then Eric Steinkamp, he used to be one of the big guys at Stop Tech Brakes. He was there hanging out. He's the guy in the corner hiding like a little scared puppy dog. The Subaru was spitting a few flames, and it was that was a classic video. That thing's got thousands of views. That's fun. I still see that pop up once in a while.
Oh,
but yeah, that's the same car. I bought that car, and it's a 2006, but I bought it at the end of 2005, drove it, commuted on it for a while, took my kids to elementary school in it for a while, and then eventually became kind of a track car, and eventually just a race car. But yeah, I still have that thing. It's
and that's a big thing, right? And I wanna quickly state this. So these are two old school Time Attack guys that are still building and repping Time Attack to this day. All right, Ryan, we're gonna get into you. So we learned a little bit about JC. He's got a Subaru fetish that he's still playing with to this day. What about yourself? How'd you start off? Where'd you come from? Where did you go?
So my car
I got
career
you.
started in Chicago. We used to go to like the stockyards, like springtime through summer and whatnot. And so back then we were drag racing. So we leave the house at like 10 o'clock. Everyone meets up at 11 and you're pretty much out until like 7 a.m. And we'd all race, each other. And then Puerto Ricans would come. They had their crazy RX3s and the hood rats would come from like Indiana and bring their crazy stuff. And it was wild. It was absolutely crazy. And so I just had an epiphany. I had enough of the cold weather, the humid stuff, and I had $1,400 in my pocket, and I was like, I'm leaving. So went to California, lived in a hotel for a while. First few days, got a job, and a couple months later, got an apartment, all this stuff, and I wasn't really doing anything at that time. But once I started to make some scratch, I got an apartment. I bought a little CRX and I did a K swap in it. Or, I'm sorry, not a
Really?
K swap. I did a B
B
swap.
series. Okay.
Okay. I was about to say
And
a K-swap before
Damn,
K-swaps were
pioneer.
popular.
yeah, sorry. But anyway, so so I did that, and actually how the whole thing worked out, like the guys I used to read about, like JHP USA, at the time it was JDM Honda Parts, I think it was. And so like Dylan, Catman, the FF Squad guys, I used to see those guys in Chicago. And so I actually, because I'm in the HVAC industry, I ended up doing a job for Sheng Chao, who owns at the time JDM Honda Parts. So the deal was like, hey, I'll do a furnace and AC for your mom. In return, I'll drop the car off. So he did Type R swap in my CRX and all that stuff. As I was going through that, one of the guys locally, this guy James, he was telling me about like road racing and Button Willow and all this stuff. And we would hang out all the time. And, he calls me one day. I'm at a wedding with my Persian wife at this Persian wedding. I'm in a tuxedo and all this stuff. And I get a call at like 10 o'clock at night. He's like, hey, we're going to Button Willow tomorrow. Where you at? I'll come pick you up. I'm like, I'm at a wedding. So I asked my wife, I was bored out of my mind. I was the only guy that spoke English. And so I was like, hey, is it cool if I go with James? She's like, yeah, no problem. So he picks me up downtown LA at the spot. He's in a 99 Civic coupe. It's got Jay's Racing coilovers that are like 22K. I don't know what that. Basically, it was oversprung the whole way there. It was just, But in the morning after, we woke up at that gross Motel 6 that everyone knows at Button Willow.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's plenty of stories to tell about that place. I remember Passenger just cresting the hill at like Phil Hill and all this stuff, thinking like, I've never seen this in my life. And so for that little moment that you got from like racing, drag racing was constant for 30 minutes. So I had my CRX being done. And so it like had my whole concept change of what I was going to do with the car and like to go do the circuit stuff. So I started doing that. And then I linked up with, somehow got involved. I don't know if you guys know Dan Fan at Art Crew. They're up north, but he's a big Honda guy, does BMW stuff. Andre Huntato, I don't know if you know him, but anyways. So I started helping on their track days. Basically, I'd help, and at the end of the day, I'd get my own track time. And I remember just going in that car, man, and just running it until the sun went down, and that got me hooked. And then started making a little bit more money, bought an EK hatch, did another swap, and then that car got stolen. And then I was done with Hondas, bought a Subaru. Met Dan Harmon, who was a Subaru shop. They weren't really doing road racing at the time, but they tuned my Subaru. They ended up doing a big turbo, and I started going to the track. Dan came with me. Now we're battling each other. And then JC comes into the picture. And it was funny. We were like instant friends. Sarcasm 100% all the time. I think he slept on my couch for what, 3 years, maybe? Something like that. I mean, like, and so we did, like, he invited me to like a Miata race. So we spent a lot of time. I mean, it was really cool hanging out with JC and just seeing a whole different perspective of what I grew up with. And then that essentially led us to competing against each other on the same team. He had a Subaru, I had a Subaru. He was way faster. I'm not so much a driver, but I was like, oh, this guy's got like talent, right? And we would kind of feed off each other, like I'd help him out with like certain things, and I'd learn things from him, or he'd show me a driving line and so on and so on. So that's how I started. So I don't want to go too deep and take too much time, but that's how I started with JC. So
One of the things I absolutely love, Ryan, about your storytelling in that situation is you remember everybody's first and last name. I wish to God I had that capability. That is like something I could only dream of having. But I do love, I love hearing stories of exactly what you just expressed, because that moment that you identified the exact moment where because you, like myself, I was into drag racing, and I got that taste of what road racing is, and I said, "I can never go drag racing again." Like, I just completely changed my whole concept of what I wanted to do, and I'm gonna go road racing. And it's that one person that kinda teed that up for you and showed you and gave you that eye-opening experience, and I love the fact that you can, like, remember to a T and remember going over Phil Hill and going, "Oh my god. This is exactly
yeah,
what
yeah, for
I
sure.
want and need."
Well, that's when you know you're getting yourself in financial trouble, no matter if it's cars or anything else. The moment you obsess about something that tripped your memory, it's a nonstop. I mean, God, that was so many years ago, and I'm still building cars based off of that moment.
Absolutely. Here at the Perfect Lab Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offer the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2 and 3-piece wheel designs, all engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum, but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do at Whoosh Bespoke. You can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding two-tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WCEC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team. So we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the time attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out. So one thing that I really want to touch on with Novak. So Novak has always had such a keen eye for builds, and I say this because the builds that he has created over the years are absolute icons of what time attack builds are. They have always turned out to be so, and I say this in a nice way, so beautiful, right? Like it's they're so beautiful that you're almost like, I can't believe he's going to go beat this car on this track. And obviously we've seen over the years that you've put other people into the driver's seat of your vehicles, but at the same time, you've also come out and shown what you can do and had a good time doing it and just enjoyed the driving, enjoyed the car, until you were ready to move on. And that's the greatest thing, is that you were always one of those guys that could build a car, build it to what your requirement, your level of a car needed to want it to be, and then you could just be like, you know what, I'm ready for the next challenge. I'm ready for the next stage. Nothing ever kind of capped you. Now let's flip that over and say JC. So JC has done a ton of just racing in general. So in his situation, he has stayed with the same exact Subaru for the entirety. But on the flip side of that, what's behind him? So, he's racing. You've raced what, Miata? So you tell me, what
I've raced.
all have you
The
raced?
Subaru's been a steady, always there kind of car. Gone through a ton of different things. Like I said, I bought it at the dealership. It was on their showroom in 2005 as a 2006 model. Drove it out of the showroom window. Hauled my kids to school and commuted, and then went through, just a pimped up street car, then a street class car for a few years, which was fun. That was, early days of Time Attack.
Street class is awesome, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters back there. I mean, good, the bad, and the ugly. We had guys like Chris Rado, who's probably the biggest character in Time Attack. We had the GST boys that, love-hate relationship with those guys. We had the Noah and what's his name, Levy. I'm blanking on their names right now.
Levi,
Guys.
You guys are
moved back to Colorado.
You guys are old and losing your memory.
Great guys with Russ Ward driving it. Then we had one of the classic OGs is Mikey Pineapple. Remember, with the NSX from Factor X, whatever it's called. They were
FX.
he first time I saw that car, it just looked like a freaking spaceship. And I remember one day they were having problems with their rods or mains, and they literally went and bought some bearings and were grinding them in the pits and pulled the pan off, stuck some bearings up inside it, went out and did a slow warm-up lap, and then a flyer. I think Billy Johnson was driving it. They went out there and got one lap, and it pretty much blew up across the finish line. They won the event, and that's the kind of effort that, which is so exciting. I mean, on one hand, it's silly, but that's what made it amazing. These guys that really worked hard at it, and I did so many, embarrassing modifications to my Subaru trying to make it faster, and a lot of things worked. I mean, my Subaru's fast as hell, sometimes in spite of what I do. I did some things good, some things I look back at and think, what was I thinking? But, people used to ask all the time, how do you know that this works or that works or this aero piece or whatever? And it's like, well, at the end of the day, if I'm holding the trophy, it worked. Like, I didn't have, we'd go to dyno cage, but no wind tunnel. We didn't do any testing. It was pretty much show up at the race and throw the dice and hope you get a few laps in and let it rip. Yeah, there it is. I mean, it became a beautiful car in its raw ugliness,
So on screen now we have JC Maynet, his Subaru as it sits pretty much. I think your splitter got destroyed, right? So you're still rebuilding that?
I've had probably a dozen splitters or more, actually. But
hey, you remember that paint job when the motor was out and we hoofed it to, I think it was like the 1-day paint.
Yeah,
it was all silver, and you had that like two-tone silver and black. I was like, gosh, this is so ugly. I'll pay for your paint job. And you look at it now, it looks awesome.
It don't look close, but from this picture, it looks great. I mean, there's so many things like, low budget, last minute, try something. I didn't want to spend a ton of money on some fancy carbon aero, this or that. So I just made it work. And a lot of it did work. I mean, the car was faster than it ever should have been, at each stage of its development.
Well, and a big thing here, JC. So in my opinion, you shaped many Subaru car cultural aspects with that vehicle. And I say that because even coming from my own opinion, like a hood that I purchased for my Subaru was based off of seeing your car at the track going fast.
Cool.
It was like, he's got this hood. This hood must work. This hood must evacuate heat. This doing something. I mean, he could have tricked me and it could have been a sponsorship deal. But at the end of the day, I bought that hood. It was a Caminari hood, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I bought that hood. And then later to find out, I talked to JC and he said, "Oh yeah, sneaky. This is a skin. You have to ask for that special, the JC special." And I was like, "Oh, I got screwed."
Yeah. And that was just kind of happenstance. The guys at Caminari, friend of a friend, nice guys up there, they gave me a bunch of goodies and just said, go to town and beat it up. And I modified it. I literally, to make it fit the car, I put a couple of blocks of metal under the hinges just to kind of temporarily get it sized up, and it's still on there today.
Yeah.
10, 15 years later, it's like sometimes those mods just work. You just wing it and throw it down there. And I haven't done a lot of changes to the car in years. I did put a sequential in it a few years ago and raced it at Long Beach. That was like the first time I raced a car in quite a while, and I haven't raced it since. And it was fast as hell. I got second, and I only got a handful of laps because I blew it. My fault. Hurt the motor. But everybody got like 25 laps. I got 5. And I missed first place by, I think, half a second, which I probably would have had the next lap, But that's racing. That's time attack. It's lap time. So now it's got a fresh motor. It's got, I think it's almost ready to go. A couple of days of fab work in the front, but it's been that way for like 4 years, like 2 days away from track ready. And I do want to bring it out. Some of the fastest limited cars will be faster. And I don't really want to develop it any further because why? It's got its place in the sun. It's had its day. It doesn't need to go faster. It'll still make those times right now. And like I said, now I have a sequential. I'd like to see what I can do at Buttonwillow with the sequential. With the stock tranny, it was basically a 2-speed car. Now, when I raced at Long Beach, I used all 6 gears of the sequential. At Buttonwillow, I probably used all but first. I probably used 5 gear, but I can't imagine having 5 gears in a car that used to only have basically 2 because of the gear ratios were just wrong.
Well, and something that's really interesting too about that is nowadays too, like you guys have got to live through some of the most interesting tire development eras. And we'll get into that, much more heavy here in a minute. But it's definitely been very interesting because I want to kind of talk to both of you about this. Looking back, right? So, what was the first time attack organization that you played with? We'll start with Novak. What was your first organization that you jumped into and said, "Let's go time attacking"?
For me, it was Redline Time Attack.
Okay.
Chris. It was like pretty serious. It seemed like back then compared to like what a speed venture, thing was. And so I was like, wow, this seems like pretty serious. And so yeah, we did that. And then if you were lucky enough to get invited to Super Lap, you were doing all the things that it took to not only go fast, to make sure your car actually looks good. And God, I just remember that being maybe the start of it for me, which was like, well, this is cool,
Yeah.
And
So Ryan, I want to quickly ask you, I want you to explain that a little bit further because like, what was it that was making you put all the jewels on, making sure that it looked good? Why did you want to do that?
well, so again, I go back to the days of living in Chicago at my mom's house, right? And like seeing the magazines of like Super Lap and all these things that were happening. And like, God, what was that one magazine that was, we used to go to Tower Records all the time in Chicago, like when it was freezing out there. We'd go through all the magazines, but there was this one magazine, it's not ringing off me right now.
Sport compact car?
No. It was
Modified or D Sport?
no, it was
Choir
it was
Boy?
like the Big Brother version of like Bills, but it was like very intimate on people's stuff. I remember one of my friends' cars was in there. My buddy Dylan and Eric, they had built this right-hand drive CRX back in the 90s, and it was a TPM or anyways. So I remember like just seeing all that stuff, right? And it was like, okay, well, I had to get my Subaru right at the time. It was like, okay, I've already dicked around with Hondas, and the Subaru was way faster. Like, take a swap in a Honda, and then you get a 2.5 liter with a big turbo. Honda's no longer like, it's not even a thing. So I remember like, okay, we got to get, aero on this thing. And oh my God, we made so many mistakes. And I had Hoosiers on there. And so when I showed up, I didn't know, like I was in the unlimited class. But I remember that specific day, Tanner Faust. JC, I don't know if you were there that one day. He was in the JIC S15, and we were duking it out. And he passed me through the turns because I sucked at driving. But like once we came around, I believe it was like sunrise, I was digging in and I passed him. I had it on video. And then as soon as we go into sunset, he blows me, right? And I was like, for me, this was the entire deal to have that on film. And then like the magazine was there and like there was a bunch of cool pictures and all that. So that for me was really what set that off for me. You know what I mean? Like I have way more Honda memories, but no, that for me was like what Time Attack was. It was like, okay, I understand. I'm in this now. I'm doing this now. And now I have to like, okay, run less of a tire and be a better driver kind of thing, you know? And that's what got me. But it was always the same. JC has always said like, it's like a high school project or like a pickup soccer game, right? And so that's what Time Attack is. No one's getting paid. You're blowing your own money. You're trying to be the peacock with the feathers. You know what I mean? You're trying to show, hey, we're the real guys. And then you get smoked by a Miata. Like, that's horrible. You don't want to leave that way. And so that's how it started for me. It was just like the presence. It was the competitiveness. I mean, Billy Johnson, all those guys, right? Who I didn't know who they were back then, but knowing who they are now, I'm like, these guys are solid drivers. I was a scrub. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's kind of when we start looking back at the early Time Attack days too, you just kind of touched on something that always reminds me. We had these like amazing pro drivers and like Billy Johnson, Reese Millen,
Yeah.
Tanner Faust. These guys would show up and run cars and go fast, right? And you look at that now and you're like, these guys used to run in Time Attack. That's
Yeah.
wild. Like these guys are such, I mean, Billy Johnson had a hand in, you know, the Ford GT in a lot of like Ford racing programs. And, oh man, who's the guy who used to run, GST, the male model guy?
Paul
Oh,
Gerard.
that was
Paul Gerard. He's an IndyCar hero.
Yeah.
Remember him? And he's actually on Top Gear. He was an American Stig.
Yeah.
We had, so he was, and I've known Paul for years, and even I didn't know. He said he only like 3 people knew. It was so cool when I found out it was actually him. And who's the other guy that drove for GST? They call him Beckham because he kind of looks like.
Yeah.
And then now I'm racing these guys. I'm hanging out with Billy Johnson all the time. Tyler McQuarrie, I talk to him.
Yeah.
He's I'm blanking out a bunch of names, but just there's some big shot guys I'm racing with in Trans Am. I'm like, no wonder they're so good in Time Attack. They were good in wheel to wheel, you know, national caliber racing. And to go from that to Time Attack is almost like picking on little kids, but good for them. I mean, a shop that had built a killer car, but didn't really have a driver that could drive it to the potential, would bring in one of these hired guns. And it's you know, in hindsight, that was a smart move. I mean, good for them.
Didn't they get rid of that rule, like no pro drivers at one point?
In some classes.
Yeah.
Okay. But I remember when things really started to come together, like when me and JC were going on the track and he was putting these times down, I was like, what? Jesus Christ. And I remember one time he gave me a drive in my S2000. I don't know if you remember that. It was my white S2000 and we were cresting, I think, the I-5 turn, and we were probably doing, it wasn't fast, but it was getting ready for bus stop. And so we crest the top of the hill. You put the rear in the dirt, the front we're still in the pavement. Somehow we made it through. And I knew at that point I wasn't a driver. You know what I mean? Like I knew JC, I had to give it up to him because I was building that S2000 on the side and I still had my Subaru, but I was like, I couldn't even understand the skill that he was doing, right? Because I didn't grow up with like motorcycles. I didn't grow up in motorsports. So I knew at that point, that was my point where I was like, I'm not a driver and I'm going to continue to build cars. You know, if I can give JC a car that's faster than his car, I'll be happy. You know, I don't know if we ever got there. I think we got pretty close, but
well, your S2000 had a ton of potential. Even your Civics hauled ass. I mean,
oh yeah,
you know, your NA 2-liter Civic. I think I did a 52 in it with street tires.
And a passenger.
Which is just like insanely fast for what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Built a good diff, a motor you could scream, and you went away from the typical Honda brick suspension and made it actually work, actually supple. And
well, so it was like at that point, I was like, okay, well, I may not know how to drive, and because me and JC kind of established a relationship. There was a respect, you know. I'd go to his place, my place, his place, whatever. And so I just really respected him. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to build this. I need you to pilot it. Tell me what I need to do after you drive it. And that's sort of how our relationship started to bloom in Time Attack, you know, because I knew I wasn't a driver. You know what I mean? Like there were certain corners that I'd puss out on or I didn't have the balls for it. And like he knew how to pilot through it. And that's pretty much how I did all my builds. I mean, I think there was a time where I was like, hey, I'm going to build a drift car. What do you think? He's like, yeah, do it. I built a drift car and we did a show. You know, I was like, it was really cool. But Time Attack, I feel like JC is always like, you know, he's the rule guy. And we have also been against each other. I had my Subaru. He had his Subaru. He called me out on one of the rules, not having a glove box in street class. So I literally got a box and put gloves in it and zip tied it. And Tony was like, you're good to go.
By the way, everybody, Jeff Westfall is the guy's name.
There you go.
Yeah, Beckham.
I had to figure that out.
Beckham.
But yeah, so it's like, that's the best part about Time Attack. I feel like these newer guys won't know anything about this stuff, you know?
Well, and I think that's a kind of a true statement. Like that, I love the fact that, you know, even two buddies going at each other, you notice something, you're like, I got to call him out. This is against the rules.
For sure.
And it's like, and at the same token, like we all understand the rules of Time Attack, especially in street class. A lot of it about the presentation, and it is one of those weird rules of gotta have a glove box. It says it's in the rules. It says it right here.
Hey, I got caught by my own friend. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those rules were silly and uptight.
I got a whiz. I'll be right back.
It really came down to the rules the organizations. If they were going to have a rule, it had to be one they can and will enforce.
Yep.
And they, you know, so many organizations, and it happens at I've been involved in almost every level of different types of motorsports. And you get these guys thinking that their rule set is perfect and there's just a million holes in it. And the more they try to clarify the rule, the worse it gets. And it's a challenge. I mean, I've been on the side trying to help clear up some rules, and it's hard. You can't plug all the holes. But some of the, you know, if they have a rule that they can't or won't enforce, they need to get rid of it.
Yep.
And it shouldn't be up to the competitors to point out things that you can walk by and see with your eyes. It's one thing to check an engine size or a wing height or something with a tape measure, but when it comes to like, it's got to have an interior. It's got to have glass windows instead of plexiglass. You can see that from a block away, kind of thing. You know, that's the kind of thing, and they shouldn't leave it up to the competitors to police that. That's what you're paying your entry fee for, is to have the officials do their job.
Yeah.
So do us a favor, JC. So where did you start out in Time Attack? What was your starting point? And give us that beginning stage of Time Attack for you.
Well, so I have this 2006 Hawkeye Subaru. Started doing track days. One time, I don't remember if it was with Harman Motive. They were helping me out, but I wasn't totally in the circle with them yet. I did at California Speedway. We did the infield only race, and 2007, and there was only one other guy kind of fast in the street class, and I had no idea how I was going to go. I thought I'd get my ass kicked, or I just went for fun. Whatever, who cared? And all of a sudden, I'm like winning this thing. I'm like, damn. And there's one guy, Nils Lefern, or I can't remember how you pronounce his last name. He had an Evo, pretty fast guy. He and I were battling for years, but just had a good old time. That's where I met Chris Rado, and everyone's kind of uptight, you know, kind of like everyone thinks they're the next Formula One hero. It's like, shut up. It's like nobody's going to F1 here. And I remember Rado, he had a big rig, and because he was a drag racer, was a Bucks Up program, and he went time attacking with his Scion TC, the dual wing car. I don't think he had a front wing on at this point. I don't remember, but I remember everyone's like uptight and following the rules, and everyone's trying to be Mr. Right, and he just freaking lifted us up all the way down the pits in front of everything. I'm just like, good for him. And that made me fall in love with the guy. I mean, it's just like he just said basically, if I'm doing it my way, and he got in trouble and didn't care, and I thought that was perfect. I love that. But yeah, so that was 2007 at Auto Club Speedway, and then I did another race with some kind of tuner shootout or something with
Oh, I remember
Speedy Cat.
this.
They hosted it. It was at Spring Mountain, and I did that, and I went out there and broke an axle or something and had all kinds of problems. And the Dan Harmon and Ian, who was his right hand man at the time, they pulled an axle off a customer car and drove it out to Vegas overnight, and we put it together. And next day I won it and had a great time. And that was the first time I really felt the love from those guys. That was like the beginning of us really connecting, because I was kind of, out of luck if it was up to my own devices at that point. I was just, I wouldn't have been able to fix it without their help at that moment.
That tuner
That was
shootout
fun.
event was absolute. Like, I look back at tuner shootout and events like that, and I go, where the hell are those events nowadays?
Exactly.
Because if I
Well, there's
remember
not really
correctly,
that many iconic cars or teams or drivers. I mean, there's some guys that are fast. There's cool cars, and not taking anything away from anybody who's doing it now, because it's their era, it's their generation, like it was for us. But it's the best part of it's kind of passed them by. I think, back then we were team rivalries. We didn't have a Facebook or whatever, Instagram, but we had forums. Those were a big thing back then. And me and Ryan were always good buddies and the biggest smartasses on there. And at one point it got really boring. So we called each other up. We're like, hey, dude, it's getting boring. Let's act like we hate each other. So we started talking shit about each other and just poking fun at everything but real things. It was like, manhood and whatever, just like nothing was off limits. And people were like amazed that we became big enemies, but it was just a total prank. And those were fun times. And I don't follow, I barely see any of the racing on the social media. But I'm hoping there's still some team-to-team rivalries, shop-to-shop. I mean, we had those the Levy brothers from NorCal. We had the Yimmy guys, you guys. We had the GST. There's just a bunch of shops that went, and just individuals, and it was just fun to have that rivalry. It was frustrating at times, but that's what made it fun.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was super fun. You remember that call out? Mike Warfield was giving me shit about something, and I was like, "Hey, you drive your car, I'll drive my car."
I remember
his
this.
Subaru.
I remember this.
I'll drive my Civic, and I will guarantee I'll run a faster lap in my Civic than you'll run in your. And that turned into a whole thing, and it was funny because I felt like it was obviously a joke to me, and I'm sure for Mike as well, because I mean, I was always cool with Mike, but we turned into such a thing that people wanted to see it to the point where I loaded my car up in the trailer.
Yeah.
I loaded my car up in the trailer. I was like, let's go. We'll be there on Friday for a test day. And then at this point, it'll just be egos at Gamble here. But he didn't show up, and rightfully so. I probably would have. I mean, I had more at that time. I had more money and time than I had talent. So, but yeah, so that was great. The rivalry was awesome.
I remember when one time Mike and I were just like, smacking balls online like crazy or in forums, and it was fun, but it was also, there was enough truth in it that it was a little bit painful for both of us. But whatever. But I'm like, and I was kind of thought Warfield's kind of a D-bag. And then my kid got hurt racing Supercross really bad. And we're at a race, and Warfield came to the race out of the blue. This is Oakland Stadium up near where he lives. Came to the race and gave me his condolences, gave me a hug, and really was concerned about my kid. I'm like, that was so cool. I mean, for all the ball busting and problems we had, that erased everything. I mean, I still talk shit out of him and have fun and remember those days, but deep down, I appreciate the guy that, he came like a real human and had some sympathy for my kid going through some challenges, and luckily came through it fine. But it was just nice that this rivalry didn't go that far,
It didn't consume you into human beings. It was something that was, there. You guys had fun. You guys, banter back and forth. You guys raced. I mean, I'm stepping back to what Novak said. I definitively remember reading all of these things and waiting for this, like, they're gonna actually drive their own cars. This is gonna be so awesome. And it was like, like
Yeah, that was
everybody
fun.
that I knew was like, oh hell yeah, this is gonna be hilarious. We're gonna see how bad, because at that time, GSC always had a professional driver driving the car. And we
Yeah.
knew what the lap times were.
Which
And so
makes
we were
up for a
like,
lot
Mike's
of
gonna drive this car. We're gonna see how much of a shitbag Mike is at driving.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it was
You know,
super
fair
funny.
enough. Yeah, if I leaned over the shoulder of tuners, but you give me a keyboard to tune my car and it'll be slow. I mean, it's
Exactly.
so that's not my strength, and he's not a driver, and that's fair. That's we do what we do, and hopefully it makes us happy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, I remember. God, I feel like that was right before I had kids, right? And so when I had my son, the first like 2 years, I wasn't going to the track, man. I was watching all the live stuff at home, holding this kid, and I was like, God, did I make the right decision? And just watching that stuff, like being like, because I used to get, because I was at the track all the time. It was like literally, I had my job, and then after my job, I go to work. And then after work, we'd go to the track, right? And so we would do like random days on a Wednesday. Let's go test this thing or something like that, right? Because at the time, Willow Springs on a weekday, if you had a membership there, it was $150, no flaggers for 4 hours. And so we would just go there and dick off, and like tune in suspension. Like 2 hours in, you're done. You know what I mean? It's just too much track time. But I remember that. And I used to get so burned out at the time, but then when you actually have a kid, you're like, I actually miss that, right? And I was watching JC like get better and better, and all my friends get better, and I'm like, here just watching, you know what I mean, like on the live stream.
Getting some FOMO.
And yeah, for sure. But not like, I'm back and it's no different. You know what I mean? But I will say, like, as I was kind of like coming down from that whole Subaru thing, you came up with yours. And I remember you were with Jimmy. And so you guys were kind of like doing your thing. And then I remember seeing your car being kind of like what our car used to be, like a semi-mod street car to a beast. And when I saw all the air, I was like, oh my God, I feel sorry for this guy. He has no idea what's in store for him. And, that's where I feel like all of us come together and go, you know what? We've spent entirely way too much money. I could have had a Porsche. I could have had a Ferrari. I could have had possibly another property.
Yeah.
And no one's going to remember your car. I remember, but no one else is going to remember your car. You could have had another property. And that's how I started looking at things. It's like, well, back in the day, I'd build a car. When I was done, I built another one because I didn't have anything to do. But now I look at it, I'm like, I could have like a fourplex. I could have a rental house here, a rental house there. So I totally did the worst possible. I'm like MC Hammer for time attack guys,
Well, I will say this, Novak. I will say this. What you just said is absolutely and completely and utterly wrong, because everybody remembers you for your cars, and no one will remember you for a quadplex that you're going to rent out to some people that aren't going to pay the bills.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that. None of those people will pay me a mortgage every month so I can, live off of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. But I mean, honestly, like, I definitively can say that when you sit around those time attack circles, things like your Honda gets brought up, and especially the build quality of that Subaru gets brought up. When the JC Monays get brought up, they get talked about JC, how he's a big asshole. Also that his car was really fast and he was a great driver. But it's one of those things, like, this is why I wanted you guys to get on the show and talk, because for me, for people that have been around time attack and have seen the growth and what we've had in time attack land, I've watched your guys' cars I've watched those builds and watched the progressions, and always thought, man, these guys built some amazing cars and did some amazing things in time attack. And we'll kind of jump into that a little bit. So obviously, JC, I know you've set a lot of records, and I want to touch base on one that always astonished me to the never and nethers of the world is, how did you ever set any time attack record on some Toyo tires is still beyond me. Cause hot damn. So get in your era, right? You, again, talking about it from previous, we had this experience of like the growth, the build, the incredible 200 treadwear tires of doom and their, expansion. Kind of give us, from your guys' opinions, we'll start with JC, about what that really looked like and how amazing that was, and how it really helped you guys and what it did to the sport, in your opinion.
Well, yeah, those R triple eights were free, and that
A
made
lot of them.
all the difference. And yeah, I look back and wonder how much faster would I been on, a more appropriate tire at the time, but who knows? I mean, maybe not faster, just sometimes but the combo works. I remember it was Hankook for a while had some, they were kind of like the fast tire for a while in that
Mhm.
class. And they were 100 treadwear, I think, back then, which weren't as good as the current 200. So things have changed. But, and I think it was with them. I can't remember, but there was a company that was known for having cheater tires, and they and it was kind of obvious who had them, and they were hooking us up with some tires at an event, and they gave me a set of cheater tires, and I felt really weird about it because I literally won't sleep if I knowingly cheat. I mean, I might accidentally do something out of the rules, but I'll never knowingly cheat. And we had this set of tires, and this is when I was racing street and modified limited at the same event, just swap tires and make a couple of changes and race the two classes. And I remember going to street and have street won by a mile, and so it's time to go into the modified class and with a different set of tires, and something happened to the car that was fatal, and I couldn't do it, so I never did run those cheater tires, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I would literally lose sleep on it today if I had done that back then. Um, and that was like, I don't like the idea of cheating. I mean, I like stretching rules. I like being creative. I like interpreting. I like stretching rules, but not flat out cheating. That was flat out cheating. That was BS. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But it did help. It's fun that there's some companies that actually care about time attack, making tires really focus at time attack, and they use time attack for marketing. Even today when time attack's got a different feel and mood than it used to, you don't have like the rivalries and whatnot. Every kid with a fart can on his car knows about time attack, and they want, you'll see some Honda Civic with a fart can and a tow hook and a time attack sticker or something. It's like, cool, why not? Everybody had an Oakley sticker back in the day on their car, but so it was it's cool that the tire manufacturers are recognizing it. Now it's what's that company? They're the good 200 treadwear tire now, not the Yokohamas, but it's a new company.
Vitor's coming
Vitor.
up
Yeah,
with the
Vitor.
new
Yeah,
color.
they're making a great tire, and they really care about time attack. And I don't even think you'll ever see one of their tires on anything other than a sporty car. So it's cool that they care about that market segment, and that if it weren't for time attack, they wouldn't be there. I think they're running that tire in spec Corvette and maybe some other series, but that's not. I don't think it's a tire you'll ever see at America's Tire for sale for your sedan kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
definitely a
it's
tire
it's
that's
it,
dedicated.
it's really surprising that they are. I mean, you would never expect to see a company come in specifically for motorsport, right? It was always a Goodyear, a Hankook, a Kumo, whatever. That, oh yeah, I guess maybe we'll make a motorsport type tire and we'll sell 200 of them. And now you actually have a company coming in. They make other stuff over in other markets in other countries, but they said, you know what, like we're going to make motorsport specific tires, and that's what we're going to push, and all we're going to push in the U.S. And I think it gives you a state, as you said, JC, where time attack is today. It's on that level, as well as motorsports. I mean, grassroots motorsports as well. Spec Corvette, some of these other competition series.
Hey,
Yeah,
so
it,
Kilgore, what are you driving? I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't really followed the thing. What are you driving, and where are you from?
So I'm from the Southeast originally, grew up in Alabama.
Oh,
I
cool.
now live in Nashville. But I've been doing grid life for the past 2 years. Been driving an F82 M4
Oh, cool.
and Street GT, and
So
which
how'd you start?
I started, I will say, in a similar fashion of motorsports that took very little time until you got to doing track stuff, which was autocross, right?
Mhm.
So doing 30 or 45-second autocross runs, and then finally got on the track and was like, all right, I'm not going back to autocross where I got to work half the day, chasing cones, and then I can get out and do,
And what were
three
you
or
driving?
3 or 4 runs. I first got started with a BMW E30,
Okay.
late 80s, 325.
So
Um,
at what point in your life did this come to be? Like, you look like you're like 30, but
I appreciate that. Yeah,
when did you
I'm not
start?
that much
Like, when
younger
did
than
you
you guys.
start? When did you start? What got you into it?
Yeah.
Forget about us.
I mean, for me, it was the same thing, right? Like I still remember. So I'm 42. I'm about to be 43. I mean, I remember
Okay.
going and getting the sport compact cars, the D sports. That was sort of what got me hooked on modifying cars. And of course, you would see the time attack. Hearing about the stuff from Tsukuba and Japan and those guys sort of setting those records, seeing those cars, and just thinking like, gosh, those cars are so cool. Um, Not only do they look, and that's one thing that I've always loved about Time Attack is that the cars not only look the business, but they are in fact that fast, right? They look as fast, or they go as fast as they look. And I think that that's always been one thing is yeah, you have some people who kind of come out, and Jaeger and I kind of harp on this a little bit. You have some guys that come out and um, you know mismatched panels and stuff sort of hanging off, and they just threw it together in the garage, and that doesn't mean you can't be fast, but at the same time you see some of these really good builds, which Ryan, I mean, looking at some of your builds, those are the epitome of high quality builds that look really good but also are really fast. Those are the
Yeah.
cars
Well,
that I really love.
the thing about that is like I'm more focused on because the way I was raised is everything has to be, you know, my parents come to town, they live in the Midwest, and my kids live out here in California. Mom comes to town and everything's turned upside down. Everything has to be straight, this, that, and so I grew up with that.
Yeah.
And that's why I do that to cars. Doesn't necessarily mean it's fast. I mean, with JC, he was the guy who was like, hey, man, I can't promise anything's going to happen. We're going to run a fast time. And like, you know what I mean? I mean, even today, like, oh my God, I tried building this stainless steel. So I'm building this Corvette, and like on the steering rods are all spherical, right? So I don't want them getting close to the rotor. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna build something out of stainless steel. Built that. It looked like an abortion. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get this from DEI, the hard stuff, and then just do it the right way. I should have done it that way the first time,
Dude, I feel you on that. I'm one of those guys, like, if I can't do it the right way, then I'm just not going to do it. But I totally respect the other guys who are like, you know what? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to see what happens. And that's how they learn. And then they say, well, this didn't work. Or you've got, sometimes like JC where, he's got a hood and he throws some stuff together and it's held on for 15 years now and it's still the same
Absolutely.
way because it works. And why change it now? Right. Like,
Well, that's
I love the ability to be able, you can have those two different cars show up, one built to the nines, one that's been thrown together, and they can go out there, they can compete and see who sets the fastest lap.
And run identical times.
Yeah.
yeah.
It
Well,
was-
with JC, it was funny because his whole entire life, he's like, it's a car. Like, I don't give a shit about like how it
it's
looks.
a tool,
this,
it's a
that.
hammer,
Yeah. But you remember, like, I was like, dude, I'll pay for your car to get painted. Like, I literally paid for his car to get painted because we were on the same team. And I was like,
especially in that era, I was dead ass broke. I mean, it was everything I
get
could
that.
do to make things happen. And, I had young kids there. My youngest one was kicking acid racing. So I spent a lot of time and money on him. I was, trying to juggle working in Santa Barbara and coming down and sleeping on your couch every week for a few days. And I was dead broke. And so a lot of stuff, you made a your ball joint, it was ugly and you didn't like it, and so you just bought one. For me, I had to make or just have something given to me because I just didn't have. I just couldn't go write a check.
Every time I got in this guy's car, it was like, God, those helmets you had in your trailer, dude, they smelled like death. They hadn't been washed in like 10 years and it was full of sweat. So I would like, hey, you want to go for a ride? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll wear this helmet. The entire time, you're not even worried about flipping over. The smell that came from this helmet was so bad. But JC was so good at driving that it took it off your mind. So I'll go back to what I was saying earlier about when he put two wheels off of my S2000 that was like turbocharged and all that. I was like, I wouldn't have been able to recover. He pulled it out. He finished, the line, whatever. And I was like, okay, so this is what he does. I can't ridicule him for not having like a thing, but this is what I do, right? Like I'm getting a good paint job. I don't care if it gets wrecked. It's the way I was raised. It has to be this way. Good for bad. But I mean, in the end, JC always killed it no matter what I put him in. In fact, he made a comment on this Corvette project that I'm doing and finished it. And, he's talking shit and literally he doesn't even know he's the test driver.
Better get a really big seat in that thing.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the difference between JC and I, our relationship is that I would be like, hey, I'm like trying to do this and like we're at the track. And that's kind of like what we always did. You know what I mean? Drivers don't worry about how a panel fits. Drivers don't worry if it's carbon or aluminum or whatever it is, right? And so I think the duo has always worked out in that. God, we've known each other for way too long.
Yeah, almost 20 years.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I mean, like to your point, I think it's kind of good to always have someone who, maybe you're like, oh, hey, I'm thinking about doing this or that, or, these three things next. And JC may be the guy where he's like, okay, well, which of those is going to make us faster? And let's start with that one, right? Let's start with that one. Or let's forget all of those and we need to do X or Y, because that's actually going to make us faster.
Well, yeah, JC's always been the driver. I will always remember that. And he may always remember my builds, but I will always remember he's a driver and he's like my go-to guy. And I think it's important to have that, especially if you're going to do this kind of grassroots type of racing, which time attack is not, I think JC said it best a couple of years ago. It's like pickup, right? It's like pickup. We're all there. Everyone sucks. And there's going to be someone who's better than the other. And someone will build a better car or maybe not, whatever. The people that can't figure it out quit, right? And so we've just been lucky enough to do it for so long that you spent a ton of money on a bunch of cars that in the end could have had a happier life buying other things, Yeah,
but you wouldn't be on the Perfect Lap podcast and bragging to your true. Used to be.
No, no one's asking you to go on a podcast, talk about your fourplex and what, emailing people, emailing renters in the middle of the night.
This is the last, I've done so many podcasts. This might be my last normal one.
Of money.
You're probably right.
I'm doing a race in Long Beach in April in one of those SST trucks, jumping that stupid thing. But
yes.
And part of the deal is, I could put whatever wrap I want on it. And I've got a few people that have offered to help and do this and that. But one of the things I'm thinking of doing is instead of OnlyFans, doing Only Dads wrap. And it's just me and Novak borderline naked.
It better be you and Novak shirtless, hugging on the hood. That's the wrap.
Oh my God. We have no problem with that. You should have saw the 240 build before it went on Hoonigans. I was like in my undies and I can't believe they posted that. My old lady was like, I thought a divorce point. Yeah. So it was bad. It would be super funny if we did that in Long Beach.
Oh yeah.
It's like you can't say no.
On the wrap. If I don't get anybody throwing real money at it, if I got to pay for it all out of pocket, I'm going to have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Hey, we
I
should
just
do
wanna
it
see
just
both your
because
bun on the tailgate. I need like both your guys' asses.
dude, you know what it'd be? It'd be like some kind of like fur like carpet where we're like hanging out next to a fireplace, you know, hugging and stuff like that. That'd be a good wrap.
Oh man.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Sorry.
Old
Peter
guy.
does that to you. Well,
See, I just put on Depends underwear so I can make it through a podcast without having to get up to go to the
if
bathroom.
There you
Novak
go.
only
There
came
you
as
go.
prepared as JC, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, come on. So, JC, one of the things that I firmly remember, right, is so as I started, coming up in my Subaru and doing all these things, obviously a lot of times I ended up chasing a lot of your records. And one of the things I definitively remember was chasing records, and like we were talking about at Big Willow. And again, like still to this day, I'm like, I can't believe this sumbitch ran this lap time in this car this many years ago, and I have to go chase this thing. And I still remember is one of those situations where for Redline, their I want to say their modified class record, and I barely eked that thing out. And I went, he ran this like 7 years ago, or I don't remember what it was. And I'm
Yeah.
just sitting there thinking to myself, like, I can't believe that he was able to run this lap time at this time. And so you guys were able to really put down some incredible lap times and do some incredible things. So really, I want to ask you, like, what do you have some like core, like key memories from back in those days that really just like jump out at you of like, I can't believe we're able to accomplish this?
Yeah. I do remember that must have been 2011, probably a Big Willow when I set that record that stood for a long time. And I was going decently fast, but just one lap. Big Willow, I used to road race motorcycles, and that was my local track. And so after you've been road racing, the car stuff is not gonna. Did you flush twice, Novak? Just checking.
Dude,
The cars are kind of like you have maybe a false sense of security that all of a sudden you feel pretty invincible. But no, I remember just to go fast to Big Willow, you got to hang it out. You're on the thin line of the edge the whole way, like any track really, but Big Willow's even more so, where you're just on the ragged edge almost the whole time to go fast. And I do remember Sean Church was there. He was doing tuning on my car, almost all my tuning, and I remember ripping off just that killer lap. It was at least a second faster my next best lap, and I came in and I remember him saying, where did you find that lap time? And I was like, literally out my ass. I have no idea. I'm pretty good about knowing what I'm doing, but every now and then you just got to send it. I'm not the kind of guy to normally just send it and cross fingers, but I did a little bit that day and it worked out. I had that Button Willow record for about around the same year that held for like 5 or 6 years, 148, I think, on the R888, which I shouldn't have had, but it worked. And it took
what class was that?
That was Big Willow. Or
No, I
Big
know
Willow.
what class. Was it mod or street?
Yeah, modified. Yeah, modified.
Okay.
Or limited, whatever, like interchange them. But and it's funny. So, Mark, the first time I met you, I'd heard your name because whatever, I think you may have been at track, but the first time I met you, I think was at SEMA. And I was just cruising around looking at this stuff, and you came up to me, and I didn't really know who you were, and you were like trying to be really nice to me. And I remember after we talked, I was kind of a dick to that guy. I'm like, I'm generally not automatically a dick, but I don't remember why. But I just remember afterwards going, oh, like that guy's cool, and he's racing Subaru, and maybe I felt competitive with you. I don't know what, but whatever it was, I was just like, man, that's kind of a dick move. I always felt bad. Sorry about that. Then I do, but it was, I was, for what it's worth, kind of the hero of the street class for. I remember one year at Button Willow, I think I beat the old record by like 4 or 5 seconds, like an eternity. That's the entire front straightaway. And it was kind of almost embarrassing. I felt like I was, beating up on midgets or something. I was like, hey,
JC, what was your fastest time in street class? Like your fastest?
Yeah. I think at Button Willow was a 56.
Yeah.
That's moving. And what year was that?
That would have been 09, I think.
I mean, guys,
08,
let's think about this real
before
quick.
I went modified. I think I went modified in 09 or 10. I can't remember. Summer. So that was, 15, 16 years ago.
Think about this. 15 years ago, people are still having that with all the modifications with cars and so on, right? Like, yeah, you could get
And
a
the
car
gasoline, not ethanol, that was,
yeah,
I mean, I ended up getting some great brakes and suspension, but I was on some, I don't know, I'm not going to even say the name, but a popular brand that's horrible. And, uh, and I was just, having all kinds of problems. We were going through a lot of learning steps, along the way, but, looking back at it, there's leaving so much time on the table. And now that I'm racing a lot in Trans Am and different series where I'm doing, 100-mile races and getting so much track time, I look back at time attack, like, how does anybody really fine tune their skill set with, sometimes 3 laps in an event until you blow up? Or even if you do a whole
yeah,
weekend, you'd be lucky to get 100 miles on a properly built time attack car. It's like drag racing. They're not designed to do 1,000 passes if you're really squeezing them. And, I would love to have, even though I'm a lot older now, I would love to go back and have a shot at it again with what I know now. Doing we dabbled in data a little bit. We had AEM was helping me out before you were involved with AEM, Mark, and they'd send an engineer sometimes and do some data, and it was so helpful. But we were just scraping the surface. I mean, we really weren't going deep. And
So
now when I'm racing, we got anywhere from 8 to 9 guys on the team. We have a couple of driver coaches. We all work with the coach. We all compare data to the other guys. And these guys that I'm on team with, most of them are in NASCAR already. They're using this as a warm up race, or they're the next big thing. And I'm like the old fart. Like they think, oh, is your kid racing here? I'm like, no, it's me. But we get to share data and video, and it is such an unfair advantage compared to trying to do it without that data. It's like
for
cheating.
sure,
And
for sure.
so early on, I really got interested in data and really got interested in the setup of the car. I used to go to Darren at West End, great guy, and
oh
he'd
yeah,
set the car up great, but you can't set the car up down in LA, bring it to the track and race all weekend thinking it's going to work right, And so
yeah,
I ended up getting my own scales, my own equipment, my own alignment, and pyrometer, everything that nobody else had at the time in this kind of racing. And that was my cheat code, really. I mean, being able to do that was everything. At the end of the weekend, all 4 wheels were pointing different directions in a good way because we're chasing temperatures, and the car was working great. And it was kind of like unfair to the guys that just showed up with the Lyman shop suspension and never did anything but maybe check tire pressures.
Yeah.
You
So
know, it's
JC, I want to ask a question, and I want to get your opinion. And this is something Jaeger and I have talked about, and I want to see what you think. Again, sort of what you were saying. If you could go back now, knowing what you, or go back then knowing what you know now, I mean, do you think that it would be worth it, right? Where instead of pushing the car to the absolute limit, let's say you dialed it back 1 or 2 notches, right? Instead of pushing 600 horsepower, you only went to like 450, but you were able to get 3 times as many laps. Do you think that has some benefits, or or do
yeah,
you think not?
somewhat. There was a time there that we were just throwing power at it. I raced the car at 750 horse a few times, and on 200 tread wears, it was just too much. And I've gone way faster since then on the same car, crowd tires at 6 to 650, like 630, I think is kind of my typical number. That's and and I've gone faster at 630 than I ever did at 750. Um, and yeah, more lap time would have helped. And in the meantime, I bought a spec Miata and played around with that and drove a bunch of other cars and ended up racing Corvettes and did spec Corvette and then raced the Corvette and Trans Am and just getting lots of lap times and just learning how to get right up to that edge right away, right here, right now, and not going over it. The beauty now, I can get out there and go 99% on the first hot lap and be at 99% for an hour in our Trans Am races. Where with time attack, it was like you go out there and you blew it. Your lap was only an 80%, and then your next lap's 120%, and you're sideways off track. Right, so it's really hard to get right to that edge. That's why these top-notch drivers that showed up at time attack, like the Westfalls and the Paul Gerards, and these guys were just at such an, again, unfair advantage because they had this this the skill set that a time attack only guy just couldn't get. And now I'm racing with those guys and I can battle with those guys. And I'm 60. I just turned 60 the other day. And it's like, man, the fact that I can battle with those guys now and they've improved their skill set since, 15 years ago. I'm like, man, if I brought it back then, it would have been a whole different world. It's kind of like Uncle Rico. Just think if you threw that foot. Same thing. It's a little bit reliving the glory days a different way, but so what?
No, I think I agree with JC. I think that if your mind's into it, right? We're not even talking about like how to get the new guys to like get here, right? This is experience right here. JC is telling you his experience. And so time attack's weird because it's a sanction that doesn't really matter, right? Other than the internet or magazines. Like that's where it's at. But you take a guy who's like serious driver, he's always going to look for a ride. But you got a lot of guys that show up time attack that let's say, they just started looking into it and they're doing what we did. They showed up with their cars and whatever, they're out running their times, but they're going to be nowhere from close to what the record is, right? And so you either have to hone in on your skill or you just do Instagram and you blow it off, right? This dude has the entire time. I mean, I've seen him grow and I'm like, man, this guy, even at 60, just to see this guy kind of grow from time attack coming out of like motocross and all this stuff to like literally getting in time attack and destroying, right? And now he's doing like the TA2 stuff and that's awesome. But how many people will continue in time attack? And that's kind of like where this is. What's going to drive people to do time attack, right? I think for us, maybe our age, because JC's 60 and we're in our 40s. But I mean, back in the day, it was like a guy that you followed and, wanted to be like him and so on and so on. Those days, I feel are getting harder to come by. So you don't get the builds. I would like to see almost like what they're doing in the Midwest, because I don't think anyone's going to beat the Supra's times, right? Like no one's going to come out to time attack and spend all that money. You know what I mean? To do that. So like there has to be another way. Like you got a driver here who's willing to drive anything. But then you want to bring business to your company if your company is time attack. And that can't be, oh yeah, these are the times, the drivers meetings at 7:30 and whatever, So
Well, and I will say this. So one thing that we have seen in the last few years, and don't get me wrong, we have spilled a lot of Supra blood on this podcast about a
Burn
little bit
'em.
of our hatred, the fact that Supras kind of have taken over the time attack realm. But
Jaeger, I'll throw Corvettes in there just as quick.
100% Corvette, Supras, they're
and
all
frankly, you youngsters might not even know this, but push rods weren't even allowed in time attacks until
yeah.
that's right, boys.
Absolutely.
And we want them out again. Get them out.
Well, and frankly, I don't want to eliminate anybody from time attack because I don't want to be the winner on the podium because somebody wasn't allowed to come run. And time attack is about creative, let it rip kind of stuff. But 1,500 horsepower with all full motorsports goodies, it's just kind of like, okay, that's cool, but it's not the garage projects. And as much as we make fun of garage projects, that's where the heart and soul of time attack is. Now, Novak stuff was a garage project, but it was gorgeous. I mean, it was on covers of magazines. My car would be buried in the magazine because I won the race, but didn't want a close up of it. But it wasn't pretty.
But to be fair though, I mean, if we go back to like the old school rules, no push rods, right? So that pretty much said no Corvettes, you're done. But then the moment a Porsche comes in, it was an exhibition. But now the Porsches are racing in these classes, right? And so the difference would be between like Mark and I. Mark likes his Subaru. I like my Honda. I can make my Honda battle his Subaru based off of my knowledge, him based off of his knowledge. We could battle each other. It's not a front wheel drive thing. It's not an all wheel drive thing. Based off of time, class, aero, that's what it is. But you have these Supras showing up that are kicking ass, And like, that's cool and that's great. But if that's going to be the class that destroys time attack, then why have those cars there? Ban them like they ban the Corvettes. That's my thought. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't disagree. The downside is you want to fill the podium. You want to fill the grid. You know, you don't want to, as a promoter, as a guy running a series, you don't want to say no to somebody who's going to pay an entry fee. So that's kind of a hard nut to crack. And unless that will make the old school time attack cars show up again. And I don't know if it will. I
Yeah.
personally think some of my funnest, I mean, you remember this Red Line Trophy Umbrella Girls? It was so silly, but that made it entertaining. They had music. They had a little bit of a rave at night. People were getting drunk. There was a beer time attack was a big thing for a while.
Oh, wait, what? What's that?
Beer time attack. There was a Black Mamba, if I remember, but
Oh yeah, we did.
comedy for a friend.
We did purchase that, didn't we?
But that's what I'm saying. So this, I went to the finals at Button Willow a couple months ago, and I had a good time. Novak was there helping out with his daughter, and I had fun. I drove my Trans Am car. It's not really time attack car, but my Subaru wasn't rolling, so and there's like it just seemed like a pimped up track day. You know, everyone's nice. It was fun to see some of the old school guys, but there was no music. There's no entertainment. There's no live streaming. There's no pit interviews. There was nobody interviewing anybody. Even if it wasn't live stream, somebody should have gone around and videoed and interviewed. And then even if it was a week or month later, have something to show for it. And it was just kind of not a lot of fanfare. So if the cars are getting a little generic, they're a little bit, bought a little bit, not to take anything against the current crew of time attack guys, but the cars are fast because of what they bought, not because of what they built, more often than not, with some other exceptions. But so what are you going to do to bring people to the place? You're going to make it a party. I mean, the finals used to be on a Thursday. Now they're on a weekend and they can't draw the crowds, but they did on a Thursday before. So what's wrong? Something's wrong with the formula? Yeah, things change, trends change, but young people want to have fun. They make it an event to go for. The racing can be incidental. The people who care about the racing go for the racing, but the lifestyle people want to go. Remember the Subaru, what do you call it? Subi Fest. Now it's just like a car show, and that's okay. But when it was a race, I remember one year at Big Willow, they had one there, and I had a good crash in mine. That was no fun, but what a blast weekend otherwise. It was partying, people drinking, having fun, goofing off, music. It was parking lot was full, and the race was awesome. But it was just a sideshow to the party, and I think that's what's lacking now.
So I will say
and if they don't have the attendance, it's hard to plan if they don't know they're going to have a lot of people. You just have to plan for a big party, and if it happens, great. If it doesn't, well, then figure out how to plan better next time.
Oh, I will say this though. So as much as, like I said, we spill a lot of Supra and Corvette blood on this podcast, but one thing that I will say is people like the Jackie Dings, people like the Boss Racings, right, that show up in their Supras have completely changed a car culture going forward in the time attack realm. People have taken those formulas of those cars and continue to just essentially build those and push those, and the Kyle McHughes have taken that formula and built and more and more and more. So we are getting to a transition point with that Supra that is pushing that formula further and further and further. But I will say, just like you guys have talked about, and what we've talked about with the Corvette and the previous rendition of like pushrod era being banned, it does put a lot of the older cars that we think of when we think of time attack into this realm of an uncompetitive nature. And that's what hurts a lot of us from the old school time attack mentality, is we go, how do I get my Civic to be competitive against a Supra? How does this?
Well, you can, but there's problems, right? Like in my case, I mean, my Civic, if I could get like a 315 15-inch tire on it, it would rip ass. But the problem is it's an unlimited class, right? And so and I'm not hating on the Super guys. I think it's awesome.
We hate on the Super guys all the time. So,
well, I don't, and I don't, and I'll tell you why. I mean, if you buy the car, it's a cool car. I mean, I personally wouldn't buy it, but I'm saying it's a cool car. Imagine you're 20-something years old and you bought that as your car. Like in our cases, 2005, 2006, 2007, we bought Subarus, right? They
Evos.
were cool for their day.
Sure.
To be fair, they were pretty cool for their time.
Yeah.
But you're buying this Toyota where you have factory enhancement that will do this and that, because the whole program, the GR, the Gazoo racing, whatever it is, it's solely focused on track racing, right? And so, like, I'm not hating on these guys at all. They show up, they race, they go home, they're happy as can be. We're miserable. We're old. We have a bunch of high school project cars sitting in the garage that we can't sell. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
our time is done. Let these guys run it. However, if you're going to do an event like GTA or anything else, well, I think that should be a class in its own. Because just for me, as an example, I was going to go to Super Lap, bring my Subaru. It's not crazy fast, but I did a bunch of suspension stuff and some aero stuff. And I was like, this car for sure is good for like 158, 156.
And just to
be
clarify,
happy.
Novak, we're talking about your new what year is that Subaru?
It's 18. It's not
20
new. It's old.
Well,
But I'm saying
that's a
been
new
in, like,
Subaru to me.
honestly, dude, like, not too many people know. I did like a few pictures when I bought it, but I don't like post anymore. But I'm saying, like, I did a bigger turbo upgrade and did all this right and like all this stuff. And I drive to Parker, Arizona to one of my buddy's place. Like, we absolutely have fun. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that thing is a machine.
It
I
looks
love
beautiful.
that thing.
It's got all the it's got a splitter, a wing. It's
Oh,
got
yeah.
everything you generally do. It's got
Yeah,
is that a carbon fiber hood you
E85,
painted?
all the good stuff, man.
Yeah.
It is super fun. But
I'm gonna
anyways,
try and act like a Subaru guy. Is this what they call a VB? Is this a VB Subaru?
I think it's a VA.
VA.
And
all
I
right.
might not
Oh,
be
I was
too
so
far off from
close.
you. Yeah,
All right.
I'm not sure, but anyways. But anyways, this car is super fun. When my GT3 in this car, a buddy and I, like 2 years ago, we went to Malibu. I haven't been up in the canyons for years, but we're like, all right, let's take the cars out. And my buddy actually designed the NA2 chassis. So he's not a car guy enthusiast like us, but he's actually a car guy. So I let him drive my GT3, and then I let him drive the Subaru halfway through, and he's like, dude, Subaru's way better. I'm like, I'm telling you, man, this car is awesome. And the best I feel like the GT3 could do at Buttonwheel was like a 154, and it was like really pushing it. If it wasn't for tires, like, there was nothing more you could get out of it. But the Subaru, I don't know if it could do 154, but the fun in driving, let's say, a car that costs X amount versus a car that costs X amount, Subaru checks the box, right? Like, it's way funner to drive. And so I look at this stuff and it's like, well, yeah, I would love to take a car like this to Global Time Attack, because, you know, we've been going to this forever. My kids, I mean, since my son was 4, I've been taking him. Now my daughter's like 7, and we've been doing this every year. So it's like a whole thing, whether I race or not. And I just wanted to bring this car to race. And then when I saw the time for street class, I'm like, why would I spend $1,000 to do this, right? And so my daughter and I just went to help JC with his whole rig. And so that I feel like this is where Time Attack has to have an issue. Like, maybe the Supra should have its own class. I'm not hating. I don't think it's a bad car, but if that thing's doing 148s in street class, well, then you pretty much have all your clients that are going to come for street class. No one's going to come.
And so Novak, we've actually talked about this previously, where we said, because obviously you have enthusiasts, right? But a car like this, you're now outside of the scope of enthusiast class. But we've actually talked about this, where we've talked about a street class A, street class B type scenario, where you end up elevating certain vehicles into those two categories to create that special realm that fits like the older, Subaru style cost category aspect of vehicles that kind of fit into those realms to allow for people to have like a GR Corolla and be able
Well,
to be
why not put them
competitive
in
and
the same class as like a Lamborghini? You know what I mean? Because they're probably faster than a Lamborghini.
yeah,
Well,
especially
You
you
know what I
guys,
mean?
I don't know if you remember when OG Redline, that was a pretty good organization. Those guys, Chris and Nick, were trying hard. They didn't really know what they're doing, but they had their heart in the right place and they were going places. They sold out to, I'm not even going to say that because I'll probably just call them all kinds of names, but they sold out to the next guy, and that was the beginning of the end. But during that period, that's when the Nissan GTR came out. And that car, and at the time they had a rule in the books called a supercar
Yep.
rule. And the supercar rule said if your car is deemed a supercar, it's got to go straight to unlimited class.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to the guy who owned the series, that ran the series at the time, and I said, "Well, this car is clearly a supercar. There's cars that are not allowed, that are considered supercars, that are slower." Well, the sponsor of the series was a Nissan dealership, and the whole goal was to make the son of the owner of the Nissan dealership look like a hero in a GTR and sell cars. It was actually a clever marketing thing they did for a while. Let's buy a series and make the rules fit us and hero, and people want to buy Nissans. But that was kind of the beginning of this super slippery slope kind of thing, whereas like it was hard to compete against a GTR. They're massively expensive, heavy, took a lot of money to make them fast, but they were fast. They were badass, paddle shifting. I mean, they were fast as hell. They were great cars. They still are great cars. But that's kind of what I'm hearing now with the Supra. It's almost like they need, if a car is X amount of speed out of the box from the dealer, it needs to go straight to a higher category. Like you can't, just like you shouldn't be able to buy a GT3 or a McLaren or something and go race street class. That would be silly. The Supra maybe needs to go straight to a, a, a class that might be more appropriate for its starting potential. And like I don't remember what my Subaru did stock at Bunwell. I don't think I ever drove it there stock, but um but I would bet
Or to
it
give
was
you
probably
some level of context, my first ever competition in super lap battle, I ran my Subaru with stock wings, stock V limited front lip with lowering springs, and I ran a 202.
okay. I was gonna say 205 was gonna be my number. If
That was what I ran on like stock tires. On like the
right, okay.
Hankook RS3s was like a
So my Subaru was probably at the time, if I drove it bone stock and didn't melt it down after the first lap, probably would have done a 205. And I ended up sneaking into the 145s. And now I got a sequential probably going faster. So what's that?
20
20
seconds.
seconds faster, whatever. I mean,
Well,
that's
what
a
does that come to
per lap,
financially?
20 seconds.
No,
What
I
does
just
that
asked the
come
most
to?
terrible question on the
Let's talk
planet.
about the books.
Ryan, get out of here with that.
But like if a car can come out of the showroom doing breaking a 150 stock with maybe just a tire change, that car probably shouldn't be allowed in street class in the first place.
And it's also a
Yeah.
question that's been asked of people who have the older generation GT3s. Why am I getting immediately pushed to limited where you could have a Supra or, and I'm throwing Kilgore under the bus here, a lot of the other newer BMWs that are coming out with these twin turbocharged high horsepower engines that are really good track cars. And they're saying, dude, like, I have an older GT3 that has nowhere near the horsepower and doesn't even have as good as a suspension. Why can't I be in street class when I can't even go as
You
fast
have to
as the
think about this
Supra?
like almost like a contractor, right? Like, you have one guy come in way too high on the bid and whatever, right? So you have to, if you're going to do time attack and you want it to continue, okay, Supras are doing their thing. And so you can go to many classes, right? You can say, well, we got a Honda thing, we got a Corvette thing, and whatever, and that's fine. But for time attack, God, I'm going to go back to old school and I'm going to go to power to weight. You know what I mean? Like, I think power to weight should be the thing for time attack, because if you don't have that, you're not gonna go anywhere. I mean, honestly, as a business owner, if I knew that every time I sold this specific unit, I could charge X amount, right? It's the best. It does this on the numbers, and this is what everyone sees online. Like, this is what I'm going to do. But no, there's other options. There's other things that, you know what I mean? Like, you could do to curb that. And so I think I'm not hating on the Supra. I think it's
You're just
honestly, I
using
think it's a pretty
Supra as
great
the
car, but
example for many other things. And I will
yeah.
say this is also why other organizations such as SCCA and Grid Life have started pushing out more and more classes. And so the interesting and funny part to the Time Attack old school guys is in one moment we cry about there's too many classes. There's not enough people competing in each of these classes. This is stupid. Everybody gets a trophy. And then 2 minutes later, we're all saying, but these people need to be in a class on their own, or they need,
No. Think about this. HFF, right, was an
Yep.
awesome break off.
Yeah.
Front wheel drive Hondas, right? HFF, awesome. And so it's based off of weight and power. Cool. You can race with those guys. But how do you put a front wheel drive, all wheel drive, rear wheel drive car in a class? And what does that mean? That means you can do whatever you want to, right? That should be unlimited. And let's go back to tires. I called my buddy over at Evasive, and I was like, hey, I need a R compound for the Subaru. This was like months ago. And he's like, why do you want an R compound? I was
No
like,
one makes a good R compound.
he's like, yeah, dude. Like, use the Advance because they're like 200 treadwear and it's like R compound. I'm like, why can't I just get, I'm old. I just want this and this and this. So now I'm like getting another understanding because, my Corvette, I bought these like triple R's or whatever you call them. And they're like 2 years old. Haven't even used them yet. They're probably going to suck ass, but now there's a new tire. So that makes things more complicated. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
you used to have the concept
Does
of
it?
a 200 treadwear tire and a 100 treadwear tire, and those were categories, and you could say these are tires that
Yeah.
are good and these are
well,
better.
going back to JC's comment, which was like with Hankook, it was like a C91 or whatever it was. And on the sidewall, it said like 100 treadwear. Well, it wasn't. You know what I mean? It was a cheater tire. So I'm like,
Fine tire,
Yeah.
plain and simple.
And
so now I'm
But
getting older.
I will say there, JC, to your point though, it's not that Hankook is no longer a cheater tire. It's now that every tire is a cheater tire.
yeah.
Right.
And-
Right.
You're talking about there wasn't. It was just a few companies,
Yeah,
Hankook in
yeah,
particular,
I get it. Yeah.
was doing it. But now everyone does it. It kind of gets fair again, I guess.
Yeah.
Someone told me, well, Mike at Evasive Motorsports was like, our compounds are for parking lot pirates.
Yeah.
I was like, really? That's how long I've been gone, dude.
And so you know what? You know what's really interesting? One company has freshly made a new quote unquote R compound, Vitor. And
Well,
it's-
I was
What
gonna
the
say
fuck is
Hoosier.
that?
Hoosier just came out with one.
Yes.
So
Well,
they're
is
coming
that
back
like
for
a
you guys.
vacuum cleaner
Yeah.
company?
So the Vitor Sonic and the Hoosier, what's the new Hoosier name?
Track
Track,
spec or something.
Track A or
Track Max.
I don't know, some other track word thing.
Yeah, something
But-
catchy.
But they are actually catching on that there was, as Novak has said, there was this whole missing segment of tire. They focused so extremely hard on this 200 treadwear rule that everybody has, that this whole 100 treadwear had gotten lost in the shuffle. And so just now are we actually starting to see, and this was also a huge component of failure amongst this limited and modified class category, that we had to have people essentially, as JC has been running in the last few years. JC's running a 200 treadwear tire in modified class or limited class, whatever class he's running at the time in the Subaru, that it's not even like you're getting an advantage over the street class guys, which then groups it all back together in itself, which makes it really stupid.
I'm gonna defend the Supras a little bit. I'm gonna take the other side.
All right, let's hear it.
just for a little bit. Only because and Ryan, I think that you kind of said this, which you guys picked the Subarus, the Evos back in the day. Those were
we're retarded. Let's
those
not
were-
go back then.
well,
No,
those
you were
those
smart,
at the
though.
time. At the
At the
time,
time.
they're
Parachute pants, mullets, and day glow. So don't judge us.
hey, it's all coming back in style these days, right? And
Ain't
what
that
they
the
say.
truth? Eventually.
But like those were highly tunable cars, and now I think the Supras, the BMWs, right? I mean, really, now we're talking about turbo 6-cylinders, which are just BMW engines, highly tunable. You can produce 600-700 horsepower pretty easily. I also think I will say this. I know we're talking about the Supras, but that is a little bit through the lens of a West Coast bias, especially with Global Time Attack, because the Supras and the BMWs are so popular out on the West Coast. What's interesting is that if you look in the Midwest, especially with Grid Life, in Street GT, the one class, you've got Corvettes, the C6 Corvettes. The C6 Z06 are still reign supreme in that class. I mean, it's amazing that you're talking about, the 2010s of a car that's still able to compete really, really well with, right, we're talking about minimal modifications in terms of bolt-ons, full bolt-ons. You're not building cars, but in terms of out of the box. The Supras struggle to keep up because they can't produce enough power, just based on the way the rules are set. But, and Ryan, I think this is kind of one of the things you said, once you are able to start tuning those, they get much more capable. You can start throwing 700 horsepower, and you've got some aero, and now they're very, very fast.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. We still have not seen those cars pushed like to really the limited or the unlimited. And I will say, I mean, even if you look at Grid Life, unlimited, like the 3 top cars are a 60s Camaro with Dussault running his, crazy Camaro, which is awesome. You've got Jimmy Rauch and a 90s Honda Civic. And then you've got
DJ
Eric
Hatch.
Fleming. You've got Eric Fleming and his C6 Corvette. So you've got and that's one of the things that I love about Unlimited is that you can make any car competitive.
But here's the
And-
thing, right? Like, okay, let's talk about Unlimited for a second. You get a guy who's a fabricator, put a car together, right? Like all the bells and whistles, 0 track time. We see that out here too, right? It's becoming more. But typically in California, it's like, well, you have the setups that work. For example, the Hondas, not so much of a big deal here, but kind of, sort of like, I mean, you can make a Honda really fast for sure. There's absolutely no questions about that. But like, I feel like the Super thing, it's like more of a California. It's like newer. You have people that are making parts for it, so they're out here, right? And they're like seeing it real track time. The C6 Corvette, I mean, God, I feel like as old as that car is, it's unleashing things that are just minimal to what these cars can do. I mean, that car has a huge ladder to climb as far as mods go, right? But let's go back to like being Midwest. You put a motor in anything, doesn't matter what it is. Put a LS7 in like an S13 with proper suspension, aero. Dude, that car is going to kill it, right? So, I don't know. I mean, you see a bunch of weird stuff, like at least on the West Coast side when we watch like the like the COTA events or whatever. Like you got guys like James Houghton and all those guys that are killing it in their Hondas and what is it? GT. Help me out here.
What's that?
GTLA or
Oh,
it's like wheel to wheel, right?
yeah.
GLTC.
For the
GL.
But I feel like the Midwest has more opportunity for more options because you get like a bunch of dudes that work out of their house or like their garage and they're like, dude, let's put a V8 in like a Nissan. And you build off of that. I don't know, man. Like to me, that seems way more cooler than what we're doing.
Well,
You
one thing too, Novak, and we touched on this on the scheduling side of the house. So when we looked at the actual schedules for 2026, it was very apparent, and this is good and bad, that the schedules were all based around the concept of like the Midwest concept of we need at literally October, November, December, January, February, March to literally sit in our garages and build our cars. And then we're going to compete
do.
April, May, June, July, August, September, and then we're done. And it was
Yeah, but you go hard.
interesting.
You know what I mean? You go hard. In California, it's like, well, you get distracted. You know, sexy guy like JC shows up. He's wearing a thong. You're like, wait, what are we doing here? No, but seriously, I feel like Midwest has a lot more to bring in terms of what the realism is for time attack, because I feel like West Coast, we've lost it. We don't give a shit anymore. You know, we've been there, kind of done that. And now, and again, being from the Midwest, it's like, well, Midwest is always like 10 years behind West Coast. And so what was cool, whatever, we're done with it. And now they're doing that there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do gotta say, let me just say though, I raced Road America last year for the first time, and what an amazing facility. I mean, you could tell.
I'll be right back.
No, what I'm saying, so if anybody hasn't been to Road America, it is amazing.
It's
Beautiful
fantastic.
facilities, the buildings, the track, the medical facility, the pit spots, everything. The place is, we don't have anything like it. I mean, we got Laguna as a classic, beautiful track, but we've got Auto Club Speedway had a little bit of, the charm of the NASCAR or whatever, that's gone. We've got, I mean, I love Thunder Hill to drive it, beautiful place, but it's middle nowhere. You go to Road America or some other of these Midwest tracks, and oh my God, they really care. And the tracks are beautiful. They throw a party, and granted, they don't have 12 months to do it like we do in California. They got 6 months maybe, but they have it's so enviable that what they've got going on back there.
Yeah.
And I will, JC, I'll kind of echo off that point, which is, and this is something that I think some of the organizations are going this way. I think even to a degree, I think you're seeing this with Global Time Attack. You're definitely seeing it with Grid Life, which is, as they've sort of said, like if we're putting on events every month, if we're putting on two events, every month, like it gets tiring. It also it stops becoming a real event, right? Like if we want it to be big and we want it to feel special, they can't take place every week, right?
Right. Maybe
you have to have some space between them, and you have to allow that buildup to occur. And so that's why I think that you've sort of seen some of these organizations contract their schedule into 3, 4, 5, 6 events throughout a year versus, we can go to Button Willow every weekend, and it's like, okay, yeah, but like, why am I going to go this weekend? Because I'm going to run the same time that I ran last weekend. Right. Like, and then I just keep running the same thing over and over and over. And, when I was out there for Global Tom Tech Finals, like you could see the guys that were very familiar with Button Willow. They waited until the perfect session. They ran like 2 laps and then they were done. They were like, all right, well, like that's it, like that, like this is the prime time, and anything after this is not going to be as fast. So I'm good,
Right.
and you just kind of, it's cool in its own way because in many ways that is time attack, right? You've got to lay it down in the prime
part of the
session.
strategy is key.
Yeah. It is, but at the same time, then it's kind of like, as an organization, you're like, okay, well, why did we pay for a full day's worth of track time when you guys are already done?
GTA is what? Global Time Attack. Grid Life doesn't tell you anything about racing. It's Grid Life. It's lifestyle. You go there, it's going to be a party. I haven't been to Grid Life in a long time, and they look awesome from what I'm seeing on social media, but it looks like a freaking party. It looks like fun. And I had fun at this last GTA race at Button Willow, but it wasn't much social. If I didn't bring Novak out there,
it was pretty depressing. I think the highlights were like those scraggler cats that we went to go, you know what I mean? Like at the restaurant.
Yeah.
That was like the highlight.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I was going to say, going back to Novak suggested like a power weight ratio for time attack. when I first started Trans Am, I had my Corvette, and the GT class I'm in, they have essentially power to weight ratio, and then benefits or penalties depending if you have a sequential transmission of some sort, whether you have ABS, traction control, whatever. So time attack is really creative, and not to get your hands tied up in rules, but it's if they want to have some kind of fairness and parity between classes, they need to do something like that. Otherwise, it's just going to be certain cars going to be runaway cars, certain drivers and budgets going to be runaway. And I know racing's cost money, and the most money usually wins. But you still, if you can't show up with a Supra, you have no chance. You're not going to show up, and that's kind of where I think they're missing out on it. So, and also something I've noticed is having a street class and a modified or limited class use the same tire, I think is a mistake. The street class should be really 4 or 5 treadwear. There needs to be a bigger gap. I mean, you look at a guy like Amir, who's a good driver, his NSX, he motor swapped down to a 4-cylinder, which is just contrary to what you think, and it's ripping. I don't remember his times, but his NSX with a 4-cylinder turbo is legal in street class, and good for him. I don't hate the player, hate the game kind of thing. He read the rules and made a car and ripped and killed it, and I admire him for doing that. But the organization shouldn't let that happen. That shouldn't be something that can happen. We're talking a 30-year-old car with a downgraded 4-cylinder killing anything new. It just there should
But
be.
I think
And
honestly,
nothing fair. Like I said, he's
JC,
done
for
it before.
that,
Good for him. It's not.
for
I'm not.
that would be like honestly okay and unlimited, because if you're gonna build like a dick all car, you could put whatever motor you want. In his case, he put a 4-cylinder. In what hopes to? I mean, you could have put a LS in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably would
But
have
he
gone
chose
slower.
that thing, and I don't really follow that stuff. But I'm saying like, okay, if we're talking high school project cars, this was what I was saying earlier. It's like, well, put whatever motor you want into it, put it in unlimited class, and if you don't beat the guy, then whatever, then you go back and you redo it. But I feel like street should be street. Street should be, you know what I mean? Like no arrow.
Now you're talking enthusiast, though. Now you got to remember you're talking.
Wait, what's enthusiast?
Enthusiast is
A
what
real
you
street car.
just said. Those are real.
Literally
Those are
car.
street
Yeah.
cars. So keep in
Well,
mind.
no, street car is a street car. Street
Now,
car
now
is a
keep
car
in
you don't
mind
get
the
pulled
rule
over
is
by the cop.
always street class is street tire class. It's about
Yeah.
having a 200 treadwear. Enthusiast is remove all the aero. That is a stock-based class that has to have stock turbos and no aero and all this other jazz and all this other crap.
Well, technically, I think enthusiast does allow unlimited engine modifications.
Is it? I thought you still had to have still have the same.
Well,
turbos.
right. So
Like,
Kilgore has a
It doesn't
point.
matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I'm just
But-
saying in general, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so the stakes are higher now, right? But like if we're talking cars now, like Toyota's making cool cars, the GR stuff, the GTRs, the new Corvette, the ZL6, whatever. Like, yeah, you can run all that, but why run it at global time attack? Time attack should be, listen, if you want to build a high school project out of your garage, right? And it's like you got a Honda or you have whatever you have. You take it there just to get beat up. We did that. We wasted money. We ruined cars. We ruined relationships. Like, let's be fair here. You know what I mean? Like, we really went into it. But honestly, like moving forward, I can't see myself going to time attack anymore. Partly because I don't have a car that can bring the heat. And the one car I am building right now, well, it'll be unlimited, but I can't beat the unlimited records of who's got the record at Budweiser right now. It's William Young, right? 138 and a Honda Civic.
Unlimited. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a Honda Civic.
137.
I ain't beating that. So who's gonna race that? And why would they? Why would you spend that kind of money?
I like the idea of time attack. I like the idea because you can make it your own. Put that stupid ass splitter on it that doesn't work right and learn the hard way and find something else and figure it out. And I learned the hard way on some stuff that I look back and laugh at myself, but it was kind of nice that I wasn't just putting on somebody else's design and knowing it worked and there it goes. You
Yeah, I
know?
mean, I think what we're seeing in the time attack realm, you have the Andrew Brilliants of the world coming up with the Infinity Wing on the front end of those cars, and that's been the last few years. A lot of Andrew Brilliant stuff, a lot of aerodynamic advantages. People utilizing, kind of taking from the F-wing stuff back in the day, and instead they said, "Oh, instead of actually putting the whole wing in the front, here, let's chop pieces of it and let's put it on end caps and stuff like that." But there's probably a lot, like
Well, that
realistically.
was done years ago with the
Oh,
Hammerhead
agreed, right?
car.
Like, but
Yeah.
in doing it in and I'll say this in a weird way, doing it in a more uh Novak fashion, right? Where it doesn't look like I just slapped on, it actually looked like I molded it to
There's some
make it
purpose.
Yeah.
purposeful. So it is hard though, because obviously we're talking about innovational factors. I think things like, again, it's not individuals coming up with something in their garage, but it's things like our sequentials that now, instead of having to like buy a Hollinger and making it fit to your Subaru, I can buy essentially a sequential that fits into the Subaru casing, and I can bolt it to my car really easily. It only is going to cost me $20,000. And so it's very much more checkbook oriented, that allows you to be innovative and allows you to keep this power. We are looking at companies to be very innovative. We're looking at the tire manufacturers to make better tires to make us go faster. We're looking at turbo companies to make better things. And I mean, like you guys, and I know you guys have done this, you've worked with companies, you've helped develop these products that they're now using today to go faster. So I know that is something that is always something that we're always looking to, is how can we work with companies to make things go faster. It might not be the individual person that's actually making said product, but it's the people that are doing these race programs that are helping these companies push forth and push that envelope to make it so that they can be more innovative in their product development to essentially build us better products for the racers. And that's, I mean, look at the Supras. If we look at like stuff that Jackie Ding did with the Supra, a lot of the stuff that he developed on his car with these companies, with support from these companies, now we see that trickle down effect, that are pushing into all these other making them faster, making them, better and better and better. And we see a lot of that stuff. And that's where, for us, for all of us in Time Attack, we want to see more things like that when these cars come out and people in the industry, Evasive. Novak mentioned Evasive, and I just want to touch on this really quickly. Evasive has always made some of the most absolutely stunning and beautiful Time Attack cars. And interestingly enough, and Novak probably has a good insight to this. One thing we haven't seen recently is Evasive come out with a Time Attack car. They haven't
Well, they
actually
are. They're redoing
the
the
Evo, right?
Evo. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's kind of an interesting
Haven't they done
attribute.
some hill climb stuff like Pikes Peak stuff?
They did some hill climb stuff with the GR86 or one of those cars.
Fuck, man.
Um, but that's
Sorry,
been a couple
guys.
years
I'm
ago
taking
now.
a piss.
That's but it's
And
been a
by
couple
the
years
way,
ago.
that Evo that they raced for a long time was the badass car in the class. That was a car that I admired and targeted.
Oh
And I
yeah.
remember the first time I beat them fair and square, heads up, was at Vegas, that outside road course you guys mentioned earlier. And I was so excited to beat them, not because I didn't like the guys, but because they were the
The
fast
top
guys.
dogs.
And I
Oh, yeah,
took down
for sure.
Goliath, and I was just JC's car. He, took his kids to school, and then I do most of the work. I mean, I had a lot of help from Harman Moto and whatnot, but it was my car. I did almost all the work on myself, and that was really fun. And that I was a big feather in my own cap to beat those guys. And they always had a beautiful car, nice setup. All their stuff is nice.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's absolutely stunning. To every time Evasive comes out with one of their cars, you can't be
It's
upset
going to
about it.
be quality. It's a Novak build. It's usually
Oh,
right up. Novaks are
100%.
probably better, but it's right up in that category for sure.
So, well, I mean, I have to say, like, I absolutely love having these conversations with you guys. Things like this, just getting into the depths of Time Attack and just talking about all the idiosyncrasies and all the little minor things, and talking to you guys about the history of you guys and running in Time Attack. Absolutely have loved that. Dude, I will say this. Time Attack is a similar and the same and completely different from the day it started to today. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of people going out, racing their cars, going for the fastest lap time they could physically do. And when we look at the overall lap times, I'll use Buttonwillow as my benchmark. We are talking about a situation that the lap times continue to fall and go faster and faster and faster every time we go there. There's always records broken, which does tell me that Time Attack is alive and kicking. But I will say this, it is always difficult. This is a sport that is motorsports driven. It costs a lot of money. It makes it really hard. But I have to say this, guys, we're going to call it here. Love having
Well,
you
wait a
guys on the
second.
show.
Before you call it,
Go,
we've
go,
already
go.
established that between me, Novak, and Jaeger, we've driven a Lesbo Subaru for years, and we're proud of it. But have we busted Kilgore's balls yet? I mean, just to be fair, Mr. BMW.
I feel bad for him. Like
Well,
he's
I'm
been sitting here listening to our shit.
Use turn signal. He's an autocross guy, which what I call drive like an asshole in a parking lot. But I gotta admit, the car control you get there. I mean, so I'm just saying, we've had to take some heat for Subarus, but and Hondas, but so anyway, just thought
BMW, bro. Me and the
BMW
finance guys. Yeah.
and it's only because I like BMWs. I'm just giving you shit.
Dude, like you have been so patient listening to our like dumb shit that doesn't mean anything.
But hey, I will say this, like it's, as Jaeger just said, it's so funny because I mean, Time Attack is still alive and well, and there's nothing like Novak, you said, you started showing up to the track. JC, you started showing up to the track. You guys all met each other. You became friends. Like that still happens every weekend in Time Attack. I mean, I've gotten to know so many. Look, I mean, this podcast, Jaeger and I met in the pits at Super Lap Battle Lakota, and that's literally like how we were like, dude, we should start a podcast and we should start talking about all this crazy stuff and try and get more people interested. So I know that in 15 years, Jaeger and I will be on some young people's podcast, and we'll be talking about
like
all
us,
the crazy things. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's funny looking at the pictures on the screen here, the different levels of gray in the beard. Novak's shaved his face, but I know he's got gray in there. But I'm like all gray.
Kilgore's a bunch of wieners on my face.
It's like halfway there.
That's how I start my day.
I literally, my first Time Attack race, I didn't have a single gray hair. That's something.
I don't know about that. I got
if I get a Subaru, do you think I'll start getting more gray hairs?
You'll get gray wave.
No, but I still have a soft spot for Time Attack. I mean, in Trans Am we do qualifying, and I conjure up the Time Attack gods to throw down that qualifying lap, and I qualify pretty good usually in Trans Am, and I credit a lot of my Time Attack days to doing that. And I got my Subaru still; it's almost ready to go. Each year I'm like, okay, I'm going to drive it this year, and when I do get it together, I want to go to Global Time Attack Finals or a Super Lap or something. I mean, I'm still going time attacking. It might not be as fast as the current cars in that class, but it'll, I'll be the fat old guy with a 20-year-old Subaru making the young guys go, what is that old guy doing out here? And there's a kind of a pride in that side of it also. So I'm not done with Time Attack. I still like Time Attack.
I can't wait to see it. I would love to see it out. I do still wish Jaeger had his, but rest in peace for that one.
I do miss that Subaru. Jaeger, what happened to that thing?
Sold it
I've
off
got
bit
some
by
of the
bit.
carnage. I think some of the scraps ended up in my Subaru spares.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yes,
so what are you driving now? You got a Mustang?
I got my Mustang, and I just picked up a dumbass Porsche, so I'm stupid.
Oh, 996 or 997?
No, I'm cheap, bro. I get Caymans. Yeah. Well, all right,
anyways,
guys. I'm just saying, watch out for JC. If you ever see Novak or JC in the pits, make sure to give them a shout. Tell them they're a bunch of assholes. Okay, Kilgore.
Yes.
You already know it, but
us out of here, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
Listen.
Hold on.
You guys can follow JC and Ryan on their Instagrams. You can follow Ryan. It's Ryan Novak, Novak, all together on Instagram. For JC, you got JC_Meynet, Meynet. Follow those guys. Ryan's got some super cool builds. Obviously, JC's doing his Trans Am and other racing kind of stuff. So if you guys want to follow them, and you guys want to talk some crap to them, feel free over DMs. They will be sure to
shit.
yeah, they'll be sure to give it back to you. No doubt about it. But yeah, thank you guys for being on here. I will say this, JC, I want to see the Subaru out there. I'd love to see it at Global Time Attack.
I'm hoping
think-
it's only got a couple of days of work and it's ready. It's got fresh motor, fresh everything.
Good,
It just needs a little
good.
fine tuning.
I think it would be really interesting to have you guys maybe go to Global Grid Life at
Go to
Laguna,
Laguna.
and have you guys kind of come back and kind of give us your report, things things you like, things that are different, things that are the same. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see your take on a big festival like that. I think it's got a lot of red line time attack feels. I think you guys would see kind of some similar aspects to it.
When is that Laguna race, the Grid Life?
It's in the ends of September.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
September
I
18th.
should have-
September?
September
Yes.
18th.
Yeah,
to 20th.
September.
September. And if
Like
you want to,
Mexico.
if you well, it's September 2026, and I will say the nice thing is that Grid Life gets unlimited noise restrictions that weekend, so you guys can bring out whatever you want to bring out to make all the noise you want. But on that note, as always, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Ryan, Novak, and JC Meynet. For all you time attackers out there, keep pushing, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Thanks, Mark.
boys.
Marky Mark.
Adios.